Justinas, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you on. Now, let me give a shot at a brief introduction here. It's going to be a challenge given all of your accomplishments. I would say most recently, you are a ultra cyclist or a bike packing racer with some pretty significant results. Most recently, second place in the Atlas Mountain Race. Before that, in 2022, Three Peaks Bike Race winner, Race Around Rwanda winner, Classic Story TNW winner, Race Around Wales winner, as well as some top 3 or top 5 finishes in major races globally, as well as I know you are a full-time job. I know in the nursing profession. Welcome to the podcast. How do you manage it all?
That's quite a long one. Yeah, that's a good question. I have quite many balls up in the air. So juggling, try to juggling and not to miss them it's an art. Have to admit that. And yeah, sometimes I would wish that there would be more hours in a day than there are. So yeah, I'm surviving.
Well, that's good to hear. And to kind of frame the style of racing or the style of races that you do, I would characterize them as mainly long distance, unsupported bikepacking races. Would you describe them in a similar vein?
Yeah, exactly. I did like the shortest race last year I did. That was Traka 360, and that's, I don't know, roughly 200 miles, something like that. And that's the shortest one I've done. so I don't do anything shorter than that. Like, it's usually 48 hours is the shortest one, and everything short I would call a sprint. So this is and it has to be unsupported. I just love this thing where you have to solve the problems yourself and get in get in the troubles yourself. Like, there's you make your own troubles and you have to solve your own troubles all by yourself.
So what drew you to this particular style, this particular niche almost of racing?
I like to go long, and I like to explore. I think that's how it all started. Like, it all started when COVID started, so that's one good thing that it brought to me. And because I had, like, we had very crazy shifts. We would work like 1 week day shifts, 1 week night shifts, and we would get 1 week off. And during that week, I was just like following the sun. I was just looking where's there gonna be the sunny weather. Norway is quite big, so you can find where it's gonna be sunny. And because, like, had to keep the distance from people. So bikepacking was the perfect. So, like, you pack the bike for 5 days, you have the food, you don't have to sleep in the hotels, you can sleep just maybe somewhere outside. You have the food, as I said, like, and you have the bike, and you just put the route, and wow, out and away. And done one that, like, done the second, then I thought, like, okay, how is it going? Like, now I want to try how far can I get in like 24 hours. So then I put a route, like, my friends were laughing, and I said, like, man, if you have to take a plane back from your ride, then you have been on a solid ride. So this is how it all went. Like, I planned the route to the Arctic Circle. Like, it, like I said, I put like a 700 kilometers. So that's, you have to help me with those kilometers to miles, but
let's call it, I'm going to get it a little bit wrong, but let's call it 450, 500 miles in that range.
And the the climbing was about the Everest, so it's just like in meters is like about 9,000. In foot is probably a bit more.
Just shy of
And
30,000 feet. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
so that was the length and the elevation gain during that ride, but I managed that in 24 hours. It was like the average speed of 30, a bit of more than 30 kilometers an hour. And yeah, then I took the flight back, and that was on. I started on Friday midnight and rode through like the whole Saturday until the midnight, Saturday midnight, and I haven't taken off my sunglasses though, because it's like, Norway and towards the Arctic Circle, so it was like sun all the way, and arrived there in 24 hours and 700 kilometers behind me. So I was like, shit, uh, there's some, yeah, it's fun. Uh, yeah, spent the recovery day like riding around. I made to Lofoten Islands. That's a very special place in Norway. And then took the flight back home, or back to my car where the car was parked, and went to work on Monday. So that was my weekend. Like it's just like, yeah, I'm always a time crunched, and I try to maximize. I think this is also a partly why I'm good at this, because like I maximize, and try to make everything efficient and use the time and yeah, find the time where there's no time.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to hear that the long distance cycling almost started with, it sounds like very much started in tandem with COVID. Did you find that maybe mentally or psychologically that it was a good way to balance out the stress at work by maybe going out and doing these major adventures?
Cycling always was a therapy for me.
Okay.
Oh, not just cycling, like all sports activities. Um, there's always, yeah. I found it. Yeah, this is the therapy. Like you go outside, go into the mountains. Either you're skiing, riding, hiking, whatever. But best way, my job is, yeah, it's stressful. If I have to admit it, it's not an easy one. There's quite a lot of responsibilities and stuff, and to manage all that, like not to drown in all this, you have to do something. And yeah, my way to cope with that is jump on a bike.
I
That
love it. Oh, go ahead.
like let the wind blow out the like yeah, the thoughts, not
Now for you, are you somebody who would like to transition? I want to touch on this a little bit. I know that going the route of a professional bikepacking racer from a sponsorship end is frankly a challenge. Somewhere I've got my favorite quote, and it's about bikepack racing, and it's specifically about the Atlas Mountain Race, which you just came in second. The clock doesn't stop, and there are no prizes, which I think probably
yeah.
is a great job of summing up this bikepack racing. Is yeah, I mean, in terms of, are you looking to become supported, or do you like your career in nursing enough? Is it a calling that you would always like to keep that balance of having like a professional career as well as one foot in the door of racing?
Absolutely. I think like I find it a bit funny, when I tell people all the stats, like training hours, training kilometers and stuff, and I still say that this is my hobby. It's fun to see the reaction. Uh, but another thing, like I'm 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 really I really love what I do at work or the day life, and and I don't know, like if I would turn cycling into my work, how it would then be. Like work is work and hobby is hobby. So yeah, it both of them is, yeah. I mean, they both are time consuming, and that's maybe why I'm single. Because there's no, I know that there's not a lot of time left in my life for other things, and so I just have to prioritize certain things at certain times. Now I know that this is also not gonna last forever, or at least, I mean, I would want to, but I don't know how it's gonna be. So at least for now, I like to go like all in both those.
Well, and that yeah, absolutely. It's great that you kind of mentioned a passion for both things. And I think we were talking a little bit off air before this started. Your training schedule would be equivalent to a professional cyclist, or even in many cases exceeds that. When you think about training for these events, are you primarily focused on endurance, or is speed a big component as well?
It is, as I've done some short races and I've trained for those short races. So to be fast on a bike in a long distance, you still have to have this anaerobic or like aerobic engine. And the bigger the engine, the faster you go on this low watts, and you become more economically efficient if you have high power. So you can travel faster on lower, and yeah, this is, I mean, it's all together to have. It's very difficult actually to explain all this, because I think this is not just legs who do the talking in those ultra races. Mine plays a big part too. This is like a lot of mind games in that, and I think I've read that quote somewhere. But you start with your legs and you finish with your mind. So
Uh,
so it's like, yeah, you at the beginning, yeah, the legs have some if you are strong, so yeah, you can ride faster, but at the end, like when everybody's on their knees, it's like the mind who gets you to the finish. So
well, that's an interesting call out. As I've had the opportunity to talk to now a few people who are at the front of the pack, like yourself, and one of the surprising things I think that or perhaps a regular person, somebody like me listening, would notice is that it sounds like the racing doesn't get any easier on yourself, like as you go faster. In fact, it might be even harder. So it sounds like it's really a mental struggle, a lot of these races.
yeah, they are. I mean, man, yeah, it's totally right. I mean, you put yourself, or we put ourselves through a lot of pain. This is crazy. Like that, people want to do that and not get any prizes. Because when I first started doing that, and in Norway, there's not so many of those. So I've been, yeah, traveling around, racing one weekend there, the next month over there, and stuff. And somebody else like, yeah, man, those prizes must have be pretty big that you're doing this, and you wanting to do that. And like, no, we don't get anything. And like, anything, like nothing at all. Like, yeah, not always a medal, or not even that. Like sometimes you just get the cap and a t-shirt, and that's it. And congratulations. And the funniest part is that you sometimes come to the finish line and there's not even an organizer there. So you are there just for yourself. You just rode for like 3,000 kilometers, arrive to the finish line. Yeah, that's not always in the daytime. That was, I think, when I finished Trans-Siberic, it was like 3 or 4 in the morning. Yeah, so I just slept on the bench, and I've been waked up by the guy who finished second, Pico. And yeah, but this is a story as well, which I'm gonna remember forever. So
Well, that's such a great way to frame it. I know in America, and I'm assuming too in Norway, there's kind of this pervasiveness of participation trophies where everybody's getting a reward for just trying, and it almost sounds like what you like to do is the exact opposite of that. It's almost it's a race for maybe personal glory, personal satisfaction. What is it like, like in the for example, when you won the Trans Siberia, I mean, do you have a profound sense of accomplishment when you cross the line first?
yeah, that's. I think I'm gonna start because this is like I feel that there's several topics of what I want to touch. What you just asked.
Please.
First of all, yeah, it's definitely. First of all, you are competing against yourself and the course or the parkour. Because yeah, you're not thinking about your competitors. You are mainly focused about like how you're gonna manage it, because when you put those numbers in your head and you just start and you know that this is like a 6, 7, 8 day adventure. So many things can go wrong, and if you're gonna start racing at the first day, man, forget it. It's so you're dealing with your own demons, as someone like to call it. I just like, yeah, you're racing against yourself, and so that's first of all. It's mainly first of all it's you, um, and then when you do this, when you finish this, yeah, you get this satisfaction that is, I don't know, like, yeah, I'm a competitive person on a bike, sometimes in life too. but so so just to finish something like that is a accomplishment like nothing else. But like to finish first is another thing which I also like. But yeah, when you finish it, and I've just, this is like, now I'm organizing the race, and there's gonna be a lot of first timers, and I'm trying, like, since I'm coming from Lithuania, but I live in Norway, so I tried, and in Lithuania, it's not big, and neither is in Norway, the ultracycling. So I'm kind of, I wouldn't call myself a trailblazer, but yeah, an example. And now I got like quite many Lithuanians to sign to this race for the Bright Midnight, and they're gonna be first timers. Quite many of them gonna be first timers, and I said to them, like, when you gonna fit, and for them, like, it's gonna be 1,000 kilometers, which is roughly like 600 miles. Yeah, something
600
like that.
miles.
Yeah, so for them, just to finish this, when they're gonna do that, man, problems in life, they disappear. I mean, you just rode for like 5 days, 4 days, or whatever it's gonna take for them, and you come into to the finish line, and you had to deal with so many lows during that time, that when next time something bad happens in life, or something that takes you, yeah, then it doesn't look that bad any longer, because you remember the situations you've been to, and I've been to worse. I've seen worse, and I got out of that. So why this should stop me? So it does something with those, with yourself, with the psychology. You get stronger, not only physically but mentally too. And I would like, yeah, I would suggest everybody to try and do something like that, because that changes you. That does.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, because I'm just so curious to understand how you deal with both the highs and the lows when you're in one of these races. I mean, I'm imagining that you've got the pre-race excitement just like everybody else, and perhaps may potentially take off too fast. Do you find that you have to hold yourself back, and then on the low points, what's
Gosh.
your coping mechanism? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm known to start too fast and to open too. It's so hard. I just want to, go and see, and that's why sometimes I can't arrive to the race too many days in advance, because I can't keep myself calm and just wait for the race. Save the legs, lay in the bed now. Shit, this is. I haven't been there before. I have to look around, see, explore, try, and this is, yeah. Well,
I
so
That's a good strategy.
yeah,
I didn't, because I remember watching your feed for the Atlas Mountain Race last year for 2022, and I remember wondering why your airline flights were so tight in terms of like when you arrived and when you took off. You had almost no margin of error, and it's a
that
good. I can understand why, given your pre-race excitement, maybe you don't want to have that prolonged time.
that it would be impossible for me to like, I have to like, yeah, but this is also have to do something with the work. I usually leave it to the uh, latest possible. Like now, the next race I'm gonna do is GranG Grvl, and it starts on Saturday evening, late evening, 10 o'clock, I think. And my flight is on Saturday, and I'll be landing at like 4 in the evening. So, and I'll have like 40 kilometers to the start. So I'm gonna land, pack my bike, I'll put my bike together, ride to the start, and start the race all at the same evening. So, but this is, yeah, and this is became kind of normal for me. It's like a bit of rock and roll, like a bit of a. I know that shit, there are things, many things that can go wrong, and you can, but this is a part of excitement. Like, this is part of the game. I think if we would be told that you're gonna come to the start, you're gonna finish this race, everything's gonna be fine, I don't know if I'm gonna do if I would do it. Like, what's the point then?
Interesting. So you very much like the unknown, or like the variability aspects of it.
Exactly. Very much. This is what I'm most interested in. Like, when I did my first year, I raced 3 races, all of them being in Spain or in Europe. Yeah, it was in Spain. Yeah, it was like, I started with Transpyrenees, then it was Transsiberica, and then Badland. So they all were very different. Transpyrenees being the race across all, yeah, Pyrenees, traversing Pyrenees. So there was a lot of climbing, a lot of mountains. Transsiberica was very long one, a lap of Spain, like kind of Vuelta, but done much faster. Instead of 3 weeks Grand Tour, it was 1 week Grand Tour, and the Badlands was a gravel race. So when I did all those races in Europe or Spain, it was very fun. Everything's fun, but I knew that I need something. I like, the world is so big, and there, and I just, yeah. When I started planning my 2022 season, then there was Rwanda, like Africa, try to go into the lands where you can't expect anything. There's no petrol stations. You don't know how it's gonna be with the batteries, power banks, electricity, whatnot, food. What you're gonna get, like water, nothing. In Spain, it's easy to race. Like, when you get to know the places, they know that the fountain's gonna be there. You'll get water pretty much anywhere, and it's gonna be drinkable, and there's gonna be no problems, with that. And when you get to Rwanda, you know that shit, you drink from this, and yeah, probably you have 3-4 hours until the symptoms gonna kick in. So you better make it worth it.
Well, that's an interesting direction. Like in kind of like story arc for yourself. I did notice that your 2022 schedule got significantly more worldly, and that's I was going to bring up that the race around Rwanda, just because that seems like not only a race but just such an adventure and like a life experience. Could you? So what are the details of the Rwanda race? Is it an unsupported race as well? How far is that? And I guess I'm curious to know how you handled the sleep situation.
Yeah, okay. So Rwanda is a kind of little country. Oh, yeah, it is a little one compared to the other African. It's on the equator. The race was 600 miles. 50-50, like 300 of those miles were on perfect tarmac roads, and 300 on quite washed out gravel. So you have to be prepared for both. The country itself is very green and very hilly, and there are a lot of people. There's like the I don't remember. I don't know if it's in square kilometers, but it's a kind of, like the size of the land is much smaller, and there's like 15-16 million of them living in that little country. So you meet people everywhere. It's they're everywhere, and but that's so fun because you don't. I mean, it's another thing. There's cows, but and I love cows. I like order, and like or you know that you can expect anything. Like you know that there can be animals, there can be, but because of that, there's so my first picture of Rwanda, like how I thought about it, like Africa is gonna be, monkeys, giraffes, and everyone, like elephants on the road. Man, there's so many people that those animals don't have so much space. So there's like, yeah, somebody saw some monkeys, but yeah, I maybe just a few. Uh, but again, but now I'm going like off topic too far. But so the race, 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles. That's roughly around like I was planning about maybe 50 hours, something of that racing time, and everything was going pretty well. Like the first day and first 24 hours went like smooth, and I was yeah can't say sailing away, but I had pretty good lead. Um, and then the puncture happened, and I had the spare tube and everything, and we were descending from the tea plantations up in the mountains, and yeah, so I got the puncture while I was trying to because I was running tubeless. So first tried to plug it, all these. Now I think there can be too many specific terms and stuff for some, but first try to plug it, then use the CO2 pressed air to inflate the tires. I had a spare tube, which I thought like, okay, I'm gonna use this in the last case. Um, because everybody like the race, we were halfway, and there were some gravel sections already behind us. When I packed my tools and my spare tube, they were too close to each other, but not too too tightly packed. So they were rubbing all the time when they were in my bags. And the multi-tool made some holes in that spare tube, which I was keeping for the last, like. And when the plugs didn't work, and I was putting the tube in, there was already half of the village around me, because like white men fixing a bike somewhere. It's not an often show. It's a show for them. So they're
Sure.
around you. Yeah, they're around you. They're watching, uh, and when I put in the tube and start pumping, and I see that not much happens. Like what, but that. And there was one, and they have those motor taxis, like a motorbikes. Motorbike is the most common, I think, way of transport. Like, yeah, a lot of bikes, but they are all old ones. The buffalo bikes, which we Europeans or Americans, we buy them, send them to there. So they come to very good use there. They are using them, and that's incredible to see. But they are 26-inch wheels, and we with the carbon wheels, 28-inch and stuff. So and another thing, like if we thought that in Europe we had like a shortage of bike parts, in Africa, man, if the tube has two holes, it's a new one. It's a shit. Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought like, okay, they're experts at patching, like so. But another thing, my tube, it was a lightweight, and the patches I had, they didn't stick to it. Like I couldn't like patch it. And so there was the boy on the motorbike who spoke a bit English. We learned how to be transported on those motorbikes with the bike. So you just sit behind the guy, you turn the bike upside down, like you put the top tube on your thighs. You don't hold to the driver because you're holding the bike, and they don't ride like carefully. So he was, and I said that I'm in a rush, I'm in a race, so I have to like, man, you have to, and he would just take me to the next bigger village where was the like a bike shop, and and I was like sitting and he was riding, and okay, so and we were getting to that village, and at like 5 in the evening, there's a lot of people in the streets, and they are all walking in that street, and I'm sitting on the back with that bike on, and he is warning everybody that we are coming by honking, but everybody hears and understand that that's a motorbike, so they make a space for a motorbike. But what they don't know is that I'm sitting there with the bike, which is like makes us wide. And he forgot about that too. So he is just like, he sees the gap where the motorbike would fit, and he rushes through that gap. And I mean, like I was almost knocked off the bike because I hit some people with my wheels, and I just like slapped him on the helmet, man. Like I'm in a rush, but we don't have to kill other people because I'm in a rush. Like I'm not in such a rush. So just like easy, man. And yeah, but we got to that shop which should have had that tube, which didn't have the tube because it was closed. Because I tried to call the owner, and there was a way when he's gonna get back. Nobody knows. But man, it took me like, I don't know, 7 hours of wandering around, like looking. He drove me pretty much to all the villages around in that district. Nowhere was like
Wow.
everybody tried to fix it, and oh my god! At the end, I ended up in a village or in the capital of that district, uh, which was on the side of our track. So I got back to the like side of the track, and I said like, okay, worst case, there's gonna be more cyclists passing, and I still was in the lead. So I knew that the second guy, the third guy, I might just like ask if they have a spare tube, and yeah, like I think it was 11 or something. And I couldn't like, yeah, I was always on a, because they were, oh no, now we made it. So we would put the tube back in the wheel, pump it up, and by the time will it looks like it's good, suddenly the air starts to come out. So it wasn't like I couldn't rest, I couldn't eat, I couldn't like drink, because you're a bit stressed.
Uh,
And and then yeah, the second guy, Jeffrey, who was in the second place, he was passing by, and they started shouting, your friend. And so he understood that there's something. Yeah. So he turned around, came back, and that was me. Said like, yeah, man, do you have tube? So luckily he had two. He haven't used the single one, so he said like, yeah, I could give you one. Uh, but and this story goes, because he gave me the tube. I pumped up the tire. I then had to get back to the place where, because this is unsupported cycling rules, you can use the public like things which are publicly available. It's not
mhm.
considered cheating. If that would be cheating, if I would have, I don't know, like sent a pack to that village where would have been my clothes and food. Like you can't do those things. But what's publicly available, it's free to use. So the hotels, like some people sleep in the hotels and all this. It's okay. It's no problem. Somebody chooses to sleep on the side of the road, but yeah, that's another thing. And
Okay.
so yeah, I got back to the start, or like to where my problem happened and where I've been picked by that motorbike. Another story, but this is, I mean, if I'm
Well,
gonna tell all of them.
I was gonna say this one is such a great story. Kind of like you walking us through how relatively problems that seem relatively small, something as simple as a flat tire, these things happen, and how they can balloon. When you said it took 7 hours, I mean that's an incredible amount of time to spend. And like you said, when you're nervous and you're trying to solve the problem, you can't be sleeping, you can't be eating, or it's a lot harder too. Um, and it's interesting too. Something that I think is interesting for context, right? So the other racers are willing to help you. It sounds like there's a fairly communal spirit, even though you're competing against each other.
Yeah, but this is, some races are very strict about this. I learned that later. That some races are, I mean, no help whatsoever, neither from your competitors, nobody. Only what's available. Like if you can buy the tube or whatever from the shop, it's okay, but you can't borrow it from your, yeah, no, nothing. Uh, Luckily that wasn't the case in that race, cause yeah, but the strangest thing about this was that he gave me the tube. I got back to the start to the place. I started racing again. At that time I was in the fourth or fifth place, I think I was going into the night. I had maybe, I don't know, half of the bottle left, and there was like 170 kilometers to the next checkpoint. Because of it, the race happened in Rwanda, and for us Europeans, to make it safer, there was people at the checkpoints the whole time. So, so I knew that there I'll get some water. And when Africa goes to sleep, there's no like 24-hour shops open or petrol stations or anything. So there's no water. You don't have it. And so I knew that had to get to the checkpoint. So got there. On the way, I passed. There was like Josh Ibbett. He's a famous racer. He was sleeping, so we passed him together with. I caught up with Adrian, who was so at the beginning in the third place. Then we passed Josh, so we became like on a shared second place. Got to the checkpoint. Jeffrey was in front. I filled everything. I made myself ready for the last stint, like so that I wouldn't need to stop. There was like 200 kilometers to the finish, and yeah. So when I left the checkpoint, I was in third. Adrian was in front. Jeffrey was even more in front, and I caught like Adrian. And then when there was like 30 or 40 kilometers to the finish line, I caught Jeffrey, the guy who gave me the tube and the guy who saved me and made me able to ride again, I'm behind him, like I'm catching him, and that was a bit of like a moral dilemma, you know. What do I do? He saved me, and now I'm catching him, and I just, when I caught him, you know, I had to ask, like, dude, what do we do now? Like, I don't feel it's fair to me to try to race against you now. So I just like, okay, back up? And he said, like, dude, first of all, like, would you have done the same? Would you have given the tube to me if I would have in that situation? And to me, that's an easy question, because yes, I would have done that same, because I already did that in Badlands, you know, when we were racing and Alistair Brownlee had troubles in desert, and I gave him CO2 and we tried to fix his tube. So yeah, and then he said, like, so that's fair. Then you got the tube, you caught me, and that's the strongest, we're gonna win. And happened that I was stronger and I won.
Well, no, that's really awesome that it came full circle like
Yeah.
that, and that you had that conversation. It's also, I think, worth calling out here is that that's a it's not just, I think giving a tube goes beyond common courtesy in these situations, right? Is it, how many tubes do you typically carry in terms of spares? I mean, I'm assuming one, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, from I keep learning from my experience, you know, like, so at the beginning, I'm a minimalist. Usually, I have the least amount of stuff on my bike compared to the other. Because you know, this is the slider, comfort and speed. So the more towards the comfort, the more stuff you tend to carry. Like, you can have the spares for the, like, spokes and stuff that I never take. And I know that that's gonna come back to me, of course, when I said this now. But anyway, so I usually just take one tube, and but then I learned that you have to take in consideration the area you're racing, how likely is to get another one. Because in Spain, if I would have had one tube and got a puncture, and the tube wouldn't have had holes, so I would just put the tube, pump it up, ride to the next village, buy another tube, put in, and have it as a spare. And that's easy, you know. You don't have to overthink and have too many tubes. Like, you don't have to have 5 just because you punctured one. But when I went to Morocco, so I had 2 tubes, yes, and I had a bit more. I had sealant, I had plugs. I was much better prepared for the punctures, because I knew that, okay, if they happen, how likely is to get another tube. And I mean, I know that it wouldn't have, like, nothing.
You're very much on your own. Now, going back to that final checkpoint at Rwanda, when you said you were 200 kilometers out, 120 miles to the finish line, are you aware of your place and how far in front the competitors are at that point?
Yeah, because we have those GPSs on us. This is yeah, because maybe someone is not aware how those races are monitored or watched. So we have those GPSs which send our location every 5 minutes, or sometimes, yeah, organizer can change that, but usually it's 5 to 10 minutes. Um, and this is how they know that we have followed the track. They see our speed, so that you know that, so nobody was in a car or in a bus or anywhere else. And this has also happened. So yeah, not but yeah, when I was reaching the checkpoint, so I knew roughly where Jeffrey is, and since we reached the checkpoint together with Adrian, he was just a bit faster to leave it, because I had breakfast. You know, I had some drinks, I had a coffee. Yeah, sometimes I do spend too much time, but that was also part of like, okay, now I'm gonna rest a bit because I know that the last stint, and that was morning, so it was like 6 or 7 in the sun was just rising, and I knew that the heat in Rwanda, it hits at the noon, so if you don't have enough fluids and you're not prepared, so not gonna ride fast in that time. So I wanted to make sure that I'll be able to push the pedals, not just to keep them running.
Now, at that point, was your mindset that you're just trying to finish the race, or were you thinking, I can still win this, I can catch these?
I put like I put small goals on ahead of me.
Okay.
Like I've made like okay, if I'm gonna catch Adrian in within like I think I put myself like 45 minutes an hour in an hour's time. I'll push more, and then you know the adrenaline starts to kick in. So I wanted to, of course. I mean, I didn't travel that far just to ride around, but I had those thoughts when I was sitting in that village. I was already googling or trying to find the bus to Kigali, to the capital, to where we started, because I knew that there is a bike shop, and there I would maybe get my tire fixed, and then would have taken the bus back to where I left, and then I would just be there as a tourist, ride around and finish. But since I got the tube, I caught the third place, or like became like, first, fourth, then third and second, and now there's just one in front of me, and let's try.
So now, how does do you find that your mental attitude, that it goes negative, or are you disappointed in yourself when you were at maybe the lowest point, when you were thinking, this is back when you couldn't find a tube and you thought you needed to take a bus back to the capital city, I think, and then
Mm-hmm.
all the way back, which has got to be would be an enormous
It would
roundabout.
be a day. It's a
It'd
day.
be okay. Where I mean, do you go to a more pessimistic place, or are you somebody who's able to maintain a positive attitude in those situations?
Yeah. Then I wanted like, okay, I thought like, if I have to do this, so it's not the worst country to be a tourist in, like, because this is another thing. I mean, when we race through the night, we race past the cafes, the local food. You don't get to try all this. And when I thought this, like, okay, if this gonna turn out into a touring tour, let it be. Then I'll have fun on the route. Like, I'll spend even more time in the checkpoints. I'll enjoy the food even more. I'll stop and do all this and take more photos and take more videos and turn this into something different. But yeah, but at the same point, I'm like, okay, if I solve this within this and that long, and when I finally got to the place, I think, yeah, so it was about 8 hours later than from when I punctured. So I just put myself a target, like, now to reach the checkpoint, and I'm gonna see where everybody is at when I'll be at the checkpoint. And since on the way I picked some people, so that was already okay.
I like that you're able to roll with it, change the strategy based on, kind of where you're at. And I totally agree with you. One of the most beautiful things about cycling is that you can go through and experience these countries, sit and relax in the cafe, have a coffee, meet locals. It's a really fun experience. Okay, let's talk a little bit. We'll shift gears. Let's talk about the
Yeah.
Atlas Mountain Race. 2022 to 2023. What are your thoughts? Was 2023 a redemption year for you?
Yeah, I kinda. But
Okay.
I found Atlas is a thing which is which left some marks on me, both like uh, uh in a way that it's I have some scars after after the 2022 when I
And,
crashed out.
yeah, and for reference, that's right. You did crash out from, and I mean, I know that you're so competitive. For you to crash out and call it, it sounded like it was a pretty bad crash.
It was I sadly I tried to try to hold the handlebars, but I had a hole in my left arm. My thumb on the right arm was out of the socket, so I had to put it back in first. So then I tried to keep the handlebars. Didn't went well. I was bleeding from many places. Ah no. And when I called, I called the race organizer and to say that, yeah, shit, man, I'm scratching and do you know where's the nearest hospital? Like, and he said like, cause yeah, everybody's, and I was leading, and he said like, man, but are you sure? Maybe you need an hour or two, or and you would be able to continue. Yeah, the guys are a bit behind you. As I like, yeah, come see me. You'll have no more questions. I don't, I don't think that I look good. Yeah.
What,
So that was,
this is a fascinating, because you've talked a little bit over the years of you talking. You've had conversations with race organizers. One of the things, the common thread here that strikes me is that these race organizers are pretty tough individuals. Where they very much encourage you to keep riding. I know in this
yeah,
case, also in the case of the if I've got this right, the 2022 Atlas Mountain Race, there was the weather was pretty tough, and
yeah.
there was like a stream crossing that was
Mhm.
too
The
much.
river, yeah,
The river.
it should have been a stream. Yeah, this year when I
Okay.
was crossing it in now in February, I didn't got even my feet wet. I was just like I rolled over it, and in 2022 when I reached that stream, there were two officials, like the policemen. I don't know, gendarmes they're called there, and I was rolling into the river because I knew that I'll have to cross it there. It looked big, it looked scary, it was night, I couldn't see almost where's the other end. I just rolled in and they just grabbed me out of it. As I like, why, like, and they started throwing stuff, and they don't speak a word English.
Yeah.
They don't speak French either because that's quite deep into the mountains, so there's only Arabic. And they were like throwing stones, and like when you drop a stone in quite deep water, it's like a boom. It just sounded like, and they said like, man, it was like showing signs that I'm gonna be washed, and that it, yeah, um, and I had to also call the organizer and said like about this that shit, man. Are you sure? Is there a bridge? Is there anything else? Or what should I do? And then he tried to talk to those guys, and yeah, at the end, I was taken to the nearest petrol station where we all, at the end, gathered, and the race was neutralized, and we had to wait because it stopped. Yeah, it was a big storm, which caused all the mountain water to get into one big river, and since it stopped raining, so the river also should have gone back to normal after hours. Yeah, but I had the lead, and the lead was neutralized, and I had a flight to catch, so and I hadn't planned to stay still like for it also was like 6 or 7 hours in that petrol station. So I suddenly, like you mentioned in the beginning, like I didn't plan time. I didn't left any time for errors. and there was a big error there, which wasn't caused by me but by nature, which suddenly became quite a big problem for me.
Okay. Okay. Well, now was as a result, did you find that the 2023 race was easier? I think it was less weather.
It was cold.
Okay.
Instead of rain, we got snow, and the nights. But I came from Norway. I came from deep winter, so I was expecting a sunny escape to in Africa, but it turned out that it was pretty cold, right? And when you asked if it was a redemption, yeah, I wanted to finish that race, so I finished it. Finally, I came to the finish line, but I didn't want it. I came second, so I can't say that this chapter is fully closed.
Okay.
But another thing is like I've you know when I had this milestone, not milestone, but I had this. It's in your head, like that where you crashed, and when I was approaching that place, or I knew the race pretty much the whole way until where I crashed. I didn't knew that just the last part was unknown for me, and it's a bit. I have to admit it was hard, like riding and knowing that there have you been stopped. First it was the river, that was okay. Then I was coming closer to the place where I crashed, and that was also like a milestone kind of to get over that, or right past that place and further in. So there are some, and I knew how hard it was already until that point where I crashed. There's one thing when you sign up to those races and you just heard from other people, oh, that's very hard, oh, that was very cold one, and you assume that, okay, we are all different and we all understand what's hard and what's long and what's cold differently. So you just think that, okay, that was hard for him, but it's not gonna be hard for me, or at least I'm stronger, I'm better, I'm faster, and this whole shit. But when you have been there and you know how hard it is, and to sign up and do it again, this is crazy shit. This is not good.
You know what you're putting yourself through.
Yeah,
And that
exactly.
and yet you still do it. Now that's really interesting though, hearing about maybe the how empowering it is to cross through sections that really gave you trouble and ended your race last year. Now this year, the start time was a little bit different, correct? Such that it kind of changed the dynamic of the early race. Did you still start out traditionally fast? And I believe you led most of the race, correct?
Yeah, I led like for 900 kilometers or something, out of what was total 1,360. No, like 1,300, a bit more than like that. But yeah, 3/4 of the race I was in the lead. So and that's another thing which I can touch. This is like a topic, or a thing which I've spent some time thinking. You're riding with a target on yourself, like you are the one being chased. And that makes something with your head, and because you shorten your stops, because you're thinking like, okay, now I'm stopped. They're catching me. You don't spend that much time, or you feel a bit more bad about spending a bit more time stopped, because you always have this feeling now they're right behind the corner, like they're on my heels all the time. And my tracker was a bit off. It wasn't sending the updates so as the other ones. So I couldn't like check my position exactly or compared to the others. I mean, so that made I made some troubles for myself with being in the lead for so long. But yeah, so again, that was a bit of a jump over. Back to last year, or in 2022, we started 9 in the morning on Saturday, and now we started at 6 in the evening on Friday. And the race starts in the first 170 kilometers, which is, again, help me there. It's a bit like 130, 20 miles, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
We climb a lot, and the highest pass is like 2,500 meters above sea level. So, and there was snow, and there was like -8 degrees Celsius. So I don't know how many Fahrenheit is that,
Cold
but
is what that is.
it's
Yes.
cold. It's freezing temperatures, and it was impossible to ride because there was so much snow. So you had to push the bike through the snow, blah blah blah, and all this. And then you get over the mountain, and all those races organized by Nelson, they are not easy ones. So when you get over that pass, it's not like you just enjoy the downhill, because it was like a rocky, stony one, uh, which I've been last year now, and I've seen it, right? And you can't ride like all if you are extremely good at mountain biking, so you can start riding a bit before, but you'll be stopped by some stones. But since I knew the downhill, I knew where you could start riding, and of course I made some promises, in my head. Don't start too early. This is just like, wow, first 1/10 of the race, and you can't win it, but you can ruin it. And guess what I did? Like, I started riding, there was some snow, my front wheel got stuck, I went over the bars, and luckily that I had 2 pairs of gloves on my hands, so I didn't made any cuts, but I have a broken or fractured and I had like what's left of the race to race with that hand. So congratulations, you just made this race harder.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay. And at that point though, that's right. That I always love that quote, right? That you can't win a race on a downhill, but you can certainly lose it. And now at that point, you did dropping out cross your mind, or did you think I can still make this? I can make it work.
Man, I already crashed from this crashed out from this. There wasn't much, or there wasn't many things would could have stopped me, because the determination was there. If I could have strapped my hand to the handlebars was something and just make it, I would have done it. I would have. I mean, the last 100 kilometers, or not just the last 100, like last 300, I was paying for all my sins, and I think from both which I've already done and for the future ones. So I'm free now, because I went through some pain there. Yeah.
Okay. And I was going to ask that the final section of the race. I mean, it sounds like you were in survival mode, just trying to finish, trying to get to the end.
Yeah, I was. I mean, there was some technical issues too. I had the light, which promised to shine for like 50 hours, but at the end it did like only 30, yeah, just 30, a bit more than 30. I had a backup light, a really small one, and luckily we had full moon, so when I was able, so I just wouldn't have any lights while climbing. But on the downhill, it's not very nice when you have quite high speeds on a trail with just a little tiny flashlight, which is not meant to like, there are lights which are meant to brighten up your way and shine up your way or light up your way, but there are lights which are meant just to make you visible. So I had that light as my backup light. So, yeah, so I had to, the last night I had to stop just to charge it and wait until it's gonna be. So that's another place where I lost a lot of. I don't know. Now it's hard to say. Like maybe if everything would have worked like and the adrenaline would have kicked in, so I might have done things a bit differently. Because this race there was a bit of a deja vu. I was passed by Mattia. He was leading the race, and yeah, he's a very strong guy. So I kind of knew that by then. I went in like now I'm gonna go. I knew that the last 300 or 400 kilometers there's pretty much no resupplies, so I had enough to make it to the finish, and I just tried to keep the steady tempo. But then suddenly I got the messages. My phone started like, I felt that there's a lot of notifications coming, and I checked, and I got to know that Matthias crashed, or he couldn't continue the race because of the breathing problems. So suddenly I'm leading the race, and this is exactly how, like, I thought this is karma, I crashed last year out and gave the opportunity for the guys behind me to get the hope to fight for the win again. So this is pretty much the same thing. I was leading, and no, I was second, and Mattia was leading, and suddenly Mattia is out, and I'm leading the race, and so there I got a bit of a boost. Forgot about some pain, and I had like you take with you some medication. So I had some painkillers, but I was running out of them. So this had made things starting to make things worse, and there's not many pharmacies in Morocco, or at least are not on the route. And so yeah, I don't know. But then I had to stop and charge the lights, and by that time, Robin, who won the race, he was already a bit in the front. So now I can't say. Yeah.
Do you find that after a race, you are somebody who kind of moves on, or do you do a lot of debrief, a lot of overthinking, maybe perhaps?
Honestly, you do, especially if you don't win it. I mean, no, but I'm a person who likes to improve and likes to seek for those. I think that both that was my first crash, or the first DNF last year, and I think it did some good to me, as you start, like, you don't take those challenges so naive anymore, because you know the risks, or you learn that there are some risks. And this year the second place also, I mean, for most of the people, the second place probably would have been like, yeah, good. For me, it was like a bit like, it's good, but it's not exactly.
That's why it's so much fun talking with you. It's so clear how competitive, like how much you want to win. It makes for a really fun time. Now, now you mentioned that, kind of now you've got a bit of a target on your back, maybe specifically with the Atlas Mountain, but I think that's probably true at this point. A year or 2 years ago, you were coming onto the scene.
Nothing.
And yeah, relatively unknown. But at this point, when you step up to a start line, I mean, I would imagine that if you're not the favorite, you're amongst the favorites for sure. Has that changed? Has that changed the dynamic a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I would lie if I would say that I don't feel that.
Yeah.
You do that, and you've been taken a bit differently, and last year as well, I've been voted to, well, I won the award by Dot Watcher, the People's Choice. So it's very fun. I mean, like, I arrived to Morocco, and I was staying in the race hotel, or the hotel where from which the race started, and most of the stuff. And to meet all the people, it's fun. It's like they come, they ask things, and they assume that you're gonna do good, but again, you never know. I mean, okay, I might be a favorite on the paper, but there's so many things that could happen during those races, and so yeah, one thing is to be looked as a favorite, and the other thing is to be the finish line or be the first one crossing it. So it's nice. I have to admit it.
It sounds like it's a lot of fun and a changing dynamic. Yeah, it's interesting how it kind of goes full circle with that. Now, I want to make sure we have a chance to talk about your race, the Bright Midnight. What is the Bright Midnight, and what was the motivation for starting a race yourself?
I had a bit too much free time. I came home from Atlas. I was injured, so I couldn't ride my bike. I had broken rib. That both hands were out of. um, so I've spent a lot of time riding around here in Norway and exploring it, and I met my friend Bruno, who is a co-organizer of the race. I'm not doing it completely on my own, as it would be a nightmare. I don't think that I would have managed it. But so I met my friend Bruno. He is an organizer already of a Seven Serpents. That's a race in Italy, and we shared the room to begin with. Once we met on the climb in Trans-Iberica. During my second race, he was doing the same race. He finished, I think, fourth. Fourth. So behind me. not that I would want to. I mean, this was a bit wrong, but then we became friends, and we shared the room before Badlands, and we had a bit of a, Bruno is a one who does a lot of like the races he participated. He was always organizing pre-parties, like riders parties, like to have some drinks before the race, pre-race, to because the people who does those challenges, not everybody calls those call it a race. It's a challenge. So people who joins and for those challenges, they are personalities, and they are incredible personalities. And there's everybody, like there's people from bike messengers to the CEOs and doctors and people with doctor degrees in different stuff. They are so interesting to talk to, and you share something similar, because they also have this crazy mindset where they want to put themselves through pain and unknown and adventure. So and not in many races this is, or it's put like, I don't know how to say it, but not in many races you are able to exchange those networks, or build those networks. Like meet the people, get to know them, and maybe keep in contact. And this is partly why I wanted to do it, like to do something differently. Yes, there's a race, a challenge. You'll get to see Norway. You'll get to see. And another thing which is amazing, there's no night at that time of the year. That's why it's called Bright Midnight, because even at midnight, if the weather is good, you can wear sunglasses. but there's a lot of other aspects around the race. There's also the before, there's the after, there's I'll try to I'm working on making like a, we will have some incredible photographers, one of the best in the game, and they have been to many races. So to get them to tell about the race from that perspective, we will have some stars from ultracycling who I want to tell the story like from their side of like from all this like leading and building the name and being known and all, and we'll have a lot of new beginners. So I want to someone who have done maybe one race, and so that they would tell all the mistakes they have made in that race, and so the others could learn and could feel that they are. I mean, you're not the idiot if you made that mistake. It's just. I keep making them. So man, if you expect that you're not gonna make mistakes, then it's a wrong place to be. You'll do. It's just like how you're gonna deal with them. It's this. I think you'll learn. This is one of a takeout. Like you will get in trouble. It's just like how you're gonna deal with that trouble. It's that. So yeah, my race is gonna be about that.
That's amazing, and I really like how you kind of the community aspect of it, and as you pointed out, it's an amazing cast of characters, the people who participate in these races. Now you mentioned in terms of what's coming up next, I know you've got a race upcoming. I think it's a couple weekends from now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's 18th of March. Yeah.
Okay, the GranG Grvl, the Canary Islands.
Yeah,
am
that's
I thank you for helping me in terms of the pronunciation there.
No problem.
And now this is a bit of an interesting race, right? It's I believe the unique aspect of it is that it requires ferries in terms of transport.
And drafting is allowed.
Oh, does
So
that change? Does that change your strategy?
Exactly, it does. Because another thing in those ultra races, that's maybe for the listeners who are not familiar with them, you're not allowed to sit on the wheel. You maybe in the start, like organizers would say that, okay, until that and that kilometer, we can't make you not to ride in the group as you all have started together. But from there and there, you shouldn't ride behind someone. You can ride side to side, but not use the wheel. And GranG Grvl, there you ride as a pack, as a team, right until you get to the last island, because that's the last island and there's no ferry to catch, and there the fireworks starts. So until that, you work together more or less. Yeah, there is a certain pace that you have to keep. It's called an ODAX pace to make to those ferries. But this is also, I would say that this is the best race to start in ultracycling, because you get those, the ferries, you have it. Nobody can ride from there, like nobody can ride from you. You all are on the same boat, literally, and you get those moments of rest. You can charge, you can eat and sleep, and then you start again in the next island, and all those all those neutralizations, like you can ride as fast as you want, but if you all make the same ferry, then it's you wasted your energy, because the ones who rode slower maybe kept more. So there's many more ways to play around it, I would say.
Right. Kind of like a forced break. Now,
Yeah.
Now, given your typical race strategy, is this not a race that, in terms of like kind of going out hard and in front of everybody, is this not a race that suits your talents, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm using this race as a training race, if you could call it, and a sunny or like, yeah, a breakaway from winter. I have. So Atlas was one of our big goals for the beginning of the season. But now there's gonna be GranG Grvl, then there's gonna be Dale's Divide in England, then there's gonna be Seven Serpents in Italy and Ljubljana to Slovenia, and then comes my second big goal for the year, and that's Tour Divide. So I'm building towards that, and so yeah, the GranG Grvl falls kind of in between my training blocks, but it's also very good atmosphere, and those islands are amazing, and I love the way that it's not too hard on your body because you get those periods of rest in between, so you still can have, and I'll meet some friends there, because this is a we get to see similar faces, and you become friends. I like to talk to people, so I become friends with, and then when you meet them in those races, it's very fun to do it again together. So it's gonna be more of a fun type one. It's like fun while you're doing it. It's not like afterwards. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Okay, and that's good to know. That I was going to ask that. Kind of looking forward to the year. It sounds like the Tour Divide is a big goal for you mid year. Now that's a much longer race than at least we've talked about so far. Does that change up your strategy?
Yeah, you can't do the same, because I mean, I'll have to work hard with myself there, like not to be too eager to start too fast, to blow out all the doors, and I don't know, spend the night in somewhere shaking and trying to recover from all the efforts. Nah, that's and it's a bit of unknown territory for me, yeah. But again, I feel that I have gained quite a lot of experience from the previous races. So yeah, it will be interesting to see. I think I don't know. I haven't done a very deep research about it, but I don't think that there's someone who have won it from the like first try. especially maybe not someone from, yeah, Europe. That can be an extra, which will motivate me to do better. But we'll have quite good start list there. I know that Alex Hose, who's a former pro, Lel Wilcock's gonna be there. Same, my friend Ulrich Uba gonna be there. Kevin, who raced here in Atlas, gonna be. I mean, the start list, and for the dot watchers it's a good one.
An excellent race to watch, an exciting crew to have all the heavy hitters there. Wow, Justinas, we've covered so many different topics. Do you have any closing thoughts that to take us home here?
Yeah, but like I would say that, yeah, as I said, those races, they change you, or these challenges, and it don't have to be a race like for the people in US. Like, you have a lot of trails which are known around, right? Which take which takes you out of your comfort zone, out of your, and this is where the magic happens, to say it in the cliche words. but like, when you will do those challenges and you win against yourself and that challenge, it will change you and will make you a better person. and I believe that at least that will make you a better person, because you learn to deal with stuff in the other ways, and you become friends with yourself, because this is also a thing which I think is very important. That I don't listen to any music. I'm friends. I'm quite a good friend with myself, so I can spend a lot of time in without needing anyone else to interrupt our company.
Well,
Now I think. No,
well said.
I was
Yeah.
I was just a bit afraid that now I might sound like a bit someone who needs something.
No,
Nah,
no, no.
but
I mean, well said, and it's been incredible too, as you kind of walk us through how you push yourself and your thoughts, the strategy, and kind of the roller coaster of racing. You do an excellent job you're an excellent storyteller. You put us right there in the moment. So it's been great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I will definitely be one of the dot watchers, watching you through all your competitions this year.
super. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. I mean, yeah, I have too many stories. I'll have to start to put them somewhere somehow, but you helped me to make them more public, like, so thank you for the opportunity. It has been a pleasure.